Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The past few years of having the gunsmith in Call of Duty has led to a lot of really cool expansions in terms of customizing your weapon, building some cool setups, using the cool camos and whatnot. It's also led to a plethora of issues. Back in, the Cold War era of Warzone, where the gunsmith was completely incorrect for like everything for multiple months on end, where none of the attachments did anything right. We had the Vanguard era of Warzone, and that gunsmith basically just offered for some ridiculously broken setups and also even more attachments that were doing hidden things and not properly displaying. And now here in MW2, we have even more of an upgraded gunsmith, also in Warzone 2 as well, for what it's worth. And unfortunately, we're back in the spot yet again where things are incredibly broken for a handful of reasons. Certain things of, the gunsmith's elements in one area are broken, but even more certain things are broken in a different area this year. And today I wanted to highlight some of these issues, explain what you need to watch out for, because there's a lot of funky stuff going on with the gunsmith here in MW2 Warzone 2, even DMZ as well. So first up, we still have the issue of certain attachments being locked. Admittedly, this is one of the more minor broken problems and issues that we have, that I'll discuss in this video, but it's still an issue nonetheless. There are several different attachments, and it's different, it seems like, for a lot of different players as to what is locked and what's not available to actually get. Personally, I have every single gun in the game maxed out. I've got Orion on every single gun in the game. I should have every single attachment, yet if I scroll through my optics, there are some that are still locked here and there. I know for some people, certain ammo options are still locked, certain stocks or muzzles are still locked for players, so there's a big issue going on there with certain things not unlocking or showing up when I guess they shouldn't be showing up. Like maybe it's chimera attachments that shouldn't be showing there, but they still are. There's no unlock criteria available for them. It's just a weird glitch going on there. So that's problem one. Like I said, it's a smaller one in comparison to some of these others, but an issue nonetheless. Moving into the more pressing issues here, the attachment bars. I'm sure a lot of you guys, when you're going through your setups, are like, a lot of these muzzles say they're doing the exact same thing. If you look at the suppressors, it's a whole lot of plus damage range, plus velocity, plus sound suppression, plus recoil smoothness, and you can see that on several different suppressors. The cons on most of the suppressors are largely the same. Sometimes it could be minus damage range or minus ADS speed, and you're like, well, they're all saying they're doing the same thing. I'm not too sure what to choose. If I look at the, bars here, the attachment stat bars, this should give me an accurate representation of what's going on here, right? No, not at all. Those bars are very inaccurate when it comes to accurately assessing what that attachment is doing for your weapon with its pros or with its cons. The same issue, goes for a lot of the compensators in the muzzle category. This also happens for stocks, for barrels, for basically every single attachment there is. Things will say they have the same exact cons as one another or the same exact pros plus vertical control plus horizontal control, yet the bars will move larger for one attachment in one direction but not larger in the other direction, giving you the indication that maybe that's the best option, when in reality it's just not always the case. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't, and there's no real way to actually know what's accurately changing there because those bars are a terrible representation of attachment and stat changes. What we need is accurate numbers there to give us the real data as to what's changing. Unfortunately, the only way that we get that data is through actually having people data mine these stats, like what we had back in Warzone 1 with sim.gg, website where you can go in and view loadouts. And I believe they're working on this for Warzone 2 and MW2. So eventually we will have this information available to us. But until that point, it's kind of a guessing game because we don't have actual numerical values and precise data points for all these different attachments and for all the stats that we're changing on our setups, which is a major issue in and of itself. However, this also directly affects the biggest and most broken aspect of the gunsmith this year. And real quick before we get into that, just want to remind you guys that if you're new to the channel or if you're already watching and you haven't subscribed, like around 60% of viewers are, every single day I got you covered with news, updates, class setups, tips, everything you need to know about MW2, Warzone 2, and DMZ is right here. So it's your one-stop shop. Feel free to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you can always guarantee you're up to date. Also, if you guys enjoy the video, if you find this helpful, if you want to bring more attention to these topics, sharing the video around is the best way to do so. So feel free to drop a like on the video as well. Let's try and aim for 3,000 likes on this one. Would really appreciate it if we could hit that. But as I was saying, you know, the attachment bars, those are inaccurate. They're not to be trusted, which in and of itself is a huge issue, but that's also been an issue for several years now. Attachment bars just don't belong here. We need actual data points. I think Cold War did it where you could actually select the exact numbers and view those, and that was a huge upgrade. Then they strayed away from that for whatever reason, so now we're left to it being a guessing game. But not having those exact numbers then directly affects weapon tuning, and this, my friends, is what is so broken for a variety of reasons. As I've already talked about, as several other creators have already talked about with Ace and True Game Data and JGOD and various other channels, tuning is very gimmicky and very finicky here in MW2 and Warzone 2 and DMZ, because not only is it making a very minimal impact on your overall setup, you're not going to gain, you know, 10, 20, 30 extra meters of damage range by tuning something, or, you know, 50 milliseconds of ADS speed by tuning something. It's just not going to have a drastic impact on your gun, so it's gimmicky in that sense as is. It's also not accurate because we don't have exact values. I believe it was Ace who actually pointed this out. If you look at the chart for weapon tuning, this is basically what we've been going off of to see if things are, you know, functioning as intended when you're tuning for damage range or tuning for velocity or better recoil steadiness or whatever the case may be. As you start to tune things, you'll notice that there are drastic dips in performance or drastic increases in performance as you tune. So it's a non-linear pattern as you're sliding those bars left and right and up and down. So you'd have to pay attention to, you know, the certain point that you get to on the graph where you're not getting too many negatives and you're still getting enough positives for it to be worth it, right? However, even the chart is not accurate. Ace pointed out that if you tune for damage range and you start to slide things towards increased damage range, you'll notice that the chart says you are increasing your range and you're increasing your damage. However, you're not getting better damage out of this. It's not like you're going to, you know, have a gun that deals 15 more damage because you tuned for better damage range. That's not how it works. So the graph now is inaccurately representing values that are not changing. For what reason? There really isn't one. If we had the exact data here, if we had the exact numbers and replace the bars with that, we'd be easily able to see, okay, I should tune to this point in damage range, I should tune to this point in steadiness. It makes no sense to me that we're trying to go this expansive with the gunsmith and allow us to change weapons in such drastic ways and be so precise with things like weapon tuning, but then hide the most important data to actually take advantage of changing attachments in specific ways, of tuning them for very fine results. Not having any stats here, any real stats outside of the bars, is a huge hindrance, and it just seems like they're trying to hide those for a random reason. The same thing could be said about, you know, these quote-unquote pro-tuned blueprints that we've already talked about here on the channel. These also seem very secretive. For what reason? If you try to adjust the tunes on any of these guns, or even if you try to view what is being tuned on these guns, it erases all the tunes, so you can't see them. If you go to just view and click on the tune on any given attachment on a pro-tuned blueprint, it gives you the prompt that says you must erase all the tunes if you want to adjust this. Even if you just want to see what's tuned here to see if it's tuned correctly, it erases it. So the whole gunsmith system here with fine tuning your attachments, physically tuning your attachments, it's a very broken system as it stands because we don't have actual data there. And as mentioned, it seems like as of right now, the only real way we're ever going to be able to access that data is through data mining and sites like Sim that give us access to that information, which just seems like it's an unnecessary step. As much as I do appreciate Sim for giving us that data and giving us that intel and allowing us to, you know, finally figure out what's going on there, it shouldn't require a third-party website to go through and data mine things, then build charts and build all this information and put it all together just to view what's going on with your gun. I feel like that should be readily accessible in games. So as of right now, you can't trust all these stat bars in game when you're looking at certain attachments to view which one is truly the best attachment. You can't tell what's actually changing in a tune because the chart isn't always accurate with certain stats like damage range, for instance. Keep in mind others like ADS speed, sometimes it'll work just fine. Other stats, it'll work just fine, but it's very random in between each one. So there's just a lot of inaccuracy. There's a lot of secrecy going on with the gunsmith, and it seems very odd if you ask me. So just be careful when you're building your setups. Of course, course, I'm always trying to test the best setups and utilize what is going to be the most efficient. So in all the setup videos, I'm always trying to go through and give you guys the most accurate data there as we get new information, as we get new intel on, you know, what works in certain builds, what doesn't work in certain builds. You guys know I'm going to keep you updated with the best loadouts and best class setups to be using. So stay tuned for that alongside everything else going on in COD, news, updates, tips, all that stuff. Feel free to subscribe with your noties turned on. And if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know by dropping a like on it as well. But that is going to wrap things up for this one. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.